Bittersweet because I think the third quarter, when I sat out, I could have came back better. When I got in the fourth quarter, still kind of went through some things a lot better. I didn't. But it felt good to kind of get a dub on our belts and look at this win as one that we learned from. Congratulate ourselves and glad that we was able to get through it. We knew New York would be a tough team. They battled through and through, so we knew it wouldn't be easy.
Yeah, and just to hold off that fourth quarter run, though, I mean, they were able to cut it to one possession. You guys got stops when you needed. Again, is that kind of what you learned the most about yourself? Just kind of how you need to focus in on defense and maybe not allow that run to happen?
For sure, 100%. I think we got a little bogged down with shots from falling. Hopefully, we see that we can be one of those teams that um, get tunnel vision on the fact that we're not making shots and continue to be shot makers and shot takers. And then tie that down with defense, being able to box out when we need to because they're really good on the boards. So, I mean, it all kind of ties together.
Reggie Edwards.
Yeah, Kelsey. Tonight was definitely a test down the stretch for you guys. The last couple of games have been. Obviously, every team wants those blowout wins and wants the big ones. But how important are the close ones in the tests, especially like tonight when you guys are able to hold on to that lead and really push it out at the end?
It was tough. When you think about it, your heart gets to pumping, your mind racing, and it's all it takes is one possession to kind of get lost. And I think we got lost early on, and I think when it came down to it, we was able to get a good defensive possessions, and then tie that in with getting fouled, getting to free throw line, etc. So it was important to know that we can have games like this and let it encourage us, and we can learn from it.
Ben Rosoff.
Yeah, Kelsey, on a night when some of your posts are struggling, mainly Candace and Tiara, like how much does it speak to your guys' depth to have you and Tiffany come through like that and eventually pull out the win?
I mean, like I said, that's another bittersweet moment for me because we rely heavily on Candace and T. But I mean, the ball bounced different ways. I know it's gonna be some games where I don't necessarily shoot it well, and I think that they're gonna support me like how we supported them. Tell them to keep shooting, keep making plays, and don't forget to be a playmaker. And for Tiffany, she played a really, really good game down the stretch, and even throughout the course of the whole game, to kind of get that downhill mentality. And I try to piggyback off that, and it helped us. It helped us over time because we still kept the aggressive mentality.
Reggie, you got another one.
Yeah, both you and New York were pretty neck and neck in almost every statistic tonight, but you guys had the upper hand in the ones that really mattered. But in your eyes, what was it, do you think, that really set you above and helped you get over that hump, as opposed to New York?
Uh, Honestly, I mean, I can't really tell you what it was, but I think it's just the ability to be a player. You got to be in these moments to kind of understand how I feel. I think you got to be on the court to understand how you got to get through these moments. So I think down the stretch for us, it was about just getting a defensive stop, do whatever you can to keep the ball in front of you and box out. And I think all five committed to that, and I think that's what made us successful.
Team got time for one more.
Yes, and, Kelsey, was it a weird feeling to kind of be on the bench at the second half? I mean, you go from a couple of games ago playing the entire game, and I know Doyle was able to spell you a little bit, and Julie and Tiff. Was it a weird feeling to be on the bench, or are you kind of glad to be able to get a rest and still be able to come out with the win?
How I feel about that because on one side I was able to kind of get a rest, get a breather, but on the other side I came back in horribly. You know what I'm saying? I needed to be tuned in and I wasn't. So I think going forward, I'm going to know how I feel on both ends of the spectrum, and I'm going to know how to approach it differently.
Saying to Kelsey that I'm sure every team wants blowout wins, but to be able to get a win with key stops down the stretch, is that something you guys can use as kind of momentum moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely got the stops when we needed to. And, this was a game that I knew was going to be close. Have tremendous respect for what they're doing. I mean, they're not easy. They're not an easy team to defend because they spread you out. And they just let the 3-point shots fly. And can't stop them all, but you've got to be good enough to, you know, to defend enough of them that they don't kill you, and to rebound the misses. You get a lot of long rebounds. There was some loose stuff that I think we could have gotten that would have helped us, but in the fourth quarter when we needed stops, we got stops. So that was huge.
Ben Rosoff.
Yeah, on a night when Candace and Tiara struggled a little bit, what did you like about what Natalie gave you tonight off the bench?
You know, well, Nat has been the starter. She's been a starter for a reason. She's smart. She's tough. She has a feel for the game, you know, at her position that's outstanding. And, you know, she gave us quality minutes on arguably, you know, less than 100% body. You know, she's fighting this hamstring pull and makes it difficult for her to, like, fully extend and fully stride. And you know, it's kind of a gut check for her and for us. I mean, we're tired. Everybody's tired. You know, having to play shorthanded all the time has been wearing on us. And I give a lot of credit to our players for just staying tough throughout the fourth quarter and doing enough to win the game. I mean, that's a lot younger than we are, and they got some length, and they made it very difficult at times to do what we were trying to do.
Reggie Edwards.
Yeah, Coach. New York is definitely not a team that you want to take lightly. And coming into the game, they were just a one-win team, but I feel like that's when a team is the most dangerous. How much of a focus was that coming in tonight, and what were some of the focal points you guys had that you really wanted to kind of take away from them going into tonight?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, in the vernacular, you would call it a trap game, because you got to look past the record. And I told our players that was on our scouting report. You got to look past that record, act like you don't see it, because that has nothing to do with the quality of that team. You know, they took Vegas to a 2-point game the other night, and Vegas was lucky to win. They beat Washington. They're a quality team that, you know, is young, and they will grow like us. You know, we got a lot of youthfulness, then we got to grow, and they will as well. But we just talked about, okay, this is a very different team because they have a 5-out offense. Even though they have length and size, they do not post up. They got everybody spread out around the 3-point line, and they all have the green light to shoot. You saw Stokes got going early. Zowie B's been the one that we really were focused on the most. Up until today, Stokes has taken threes, but she's not shot it well, and of course she came out of her slump. But you know, again, just having respect for everybody that's here. There's no bad teams here, and therefore there's no easy games. And your preparation for this one was way different than it was for the last 2 games, and that's part of the challenge when you only have a day in between to rest, to flush the last game, no matter what happened in the game, to flush the scout report and get the new one in your head. It's challenging for everybody. And so again, I'm just going to compliment our players for staying together, playing hard, and doing enough to win this basketball game, because it was not easy.
Kane, you got another one.
Yes. Coach, how much potential does the offense have when Tiara and Lauren are playing together? They kind of got an extended run in the first half there, and we saw some of the high-low action that we kind of expected when Lauren's on the floor. Just how do they look together, and do you expect to see more of that moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, I've said all along that Lauren is an elite passer, and she's been accustomed to playing in an offense at Baylor where she had a partner, you know, in the post who she could throw it to, and so she's comfortable doing it. She's skilled at doing it, and you know, and she and Tiara have played well together. So, you know, to have 2 young post players who, you know, are kind of meshing and gelling together pretty well in the early going, you know, I'm happy about that. But you know, I think for all of our players, we're all still getting used to understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each other, and the strengths and weaknesses of our team. And you know, I thought our team just had a real big gut check tonight, and I look forward to continuing to work with our bigs to find different ways that we can make life miserable for our opponents.
Anything else for Coach Stanley, guys?
I got one real quick, Ryan, if that's okay.
Go for it.
You guys both teams played very close in almost every stat tonight. You guys really had the upper hand of one of the ones that really mattered in rebounds. But down the stretch, what do you feel like really set you guys apart, helped you get over that hump as opposed to New York down the stretch?
couple timeout plays where we executed well and got the shots we wanted. Like that baseline out of bounds was executed extremely well. And, I think in Julie, we've got a calm leader on the floor. In Candace, we have a calm leader on the floor. And I think the two of them give composure and confidence and smarts to our group, whatever group they're with. And so I value that experience on the floor in those difficult times. And, we're learning how to close out games. I mean, this is a team that's struggled the last couple of years, and, this year's not going to be easy. We're going to have to fight for everything, and we're going to have to learn, how to close out games and win games. And we've done that 2 consecutive times and differently each time with a different type of opponent. So some of it is style, some of it is just, again, having leadership, composure, and confidence at tough times to say, hey, we're here for a reason, and all we got to do is do our stuff as well as we can, and we'll be fine.
Hey, Tiffany, Coach talked about just kind of the calm leadership that you guys have, yourself and Candace and Natalie. What was said maybe in that final huddle after Kelsey hit her shot late in the fourth quarter there? What is kind of said that allows you guys to execute so well and, again, remain calm with the game on the line?
We have the plays. We have the players. Players make plays. So we weren't trying to do anything different than we were doing the whole game. So we just executed the play. We trusted Kelsey to take that shot. It's her shot. She shoots it all the time. So regardless if it's a close game or not, we trust her enough to take that shot.
And
go ahead, Cam.
And defensively, I know New York likes to shoot the ball at will, basically, but to be able to get the stops down the stretch when you needed them, how important was that? And is that something you guys can continue to build off of?
There were big stops. We had to lock down and pay attention and get stops when we needed them. I think we gave up too many O boards and just defensive rebounds in general. So we knew in crunch time we had to put a little more attention to boxing out and getting the rebound.
Reggie Edwards.
Yeah, tonight was a really good game because you guys were able to really hold in that lead and push it out at the end of the game. How important is that going into the next game against the Sparks, especially coming off the last game where it just kind of slipped away and you guys were able to pull that out tonight?
Yeah, that's been the tell of the whole season, putting quarters together. I think we have really, really, really good first halves. Sometimes not so good third quarters, and then fourth quarters we try to pick it back up. So it's just putting all 4 together. We know the Sparks, they got a lot of weapons, so it's trying to be consistent, play every 10 minutes the same, and try to not let them come back and keep the lead as much as we can.
Ben Rosoff.
Yeah, obviously they cut it to a pretty close game in the second half. And in the first half, when you guys were building that lead and went on that 20-3 1, what do you think specifically fueled that push for you guys?
Say it again.
Just what do you think fueled that push for you guys in the first half when you were able to go up 16?
It's just having a sense of pride. Candace said it in the huddle, we got to be able to get stops and get scores. It's having a sense of pride, knowing that we can't lose to this team. So, New York is a good team. They're young, they're athletic, but at the same time, we're working on something here in Indiana, so this was a good win for us.
Natalie, I know you've been banged up for the last couple of games. Just first want to ask how you're feeling.
I'm feeling better. Each day I'm working more with Todd than our trainer than I'm spending time by myself. I really just try to get as healthy as I can to get back on the court. But today I was a little I think I had a little more fight today because I think emotionally I was feeling heavy. I was feeling heavy. We've had a couple talks with our PA and with the different groups. And I was thinking, because tomorrow is the anniversary of Michelle Crusoe's death. And anyone that knows me knows I'm a huge advocate for the mental health community. And it was weighing on me today to know that a Black woman reached out for help, or somebody reached out for help for her, and she was murdered in her home. So that was heavy on me today. It gave me a little bit more fight to want to push through anything that I was going through.
Yeah, that's great. And I just want to ask a little bit more about the team. Now that you've been able to be back in the lineup alongside Lauren, who just came back, how nice is it to have you, Lauren, and Tierra as the three kind of main post players going forward for the rest of the season?
I think it's great that we have some height, some length, some substitutions, but we go how Candace Dupree goes. She's our vet, she's our OG, and we follow her lead. So really fortunate that we have subs, and I know they're happy that I'm back in the rotation too to give them some couple blows too. But I think really our focus for the four of us is to stay healthy and push through this time while we're missing Stephanie Mavunga.
Reggie Edwards.
Yeah, Natalie, I kind of wanted to go back to a subject you just touched on with mental health. Do you feel like that's a subject that's talked about enough in sports, collegiate or professional?
I don't think it's a conversation that's discussed enough in and out of sports, especially in a time like now in sport where we're operating in a bubble or we're operating in something that's different than what we know. It's not talked about enough. It's more than half the battle of being here. Is who can stay mentally engaged, mentally sharp, healthy throughout this time in a altered environment. That's a big piece. It's a big piece, and I think we need to talk about it more. I think we need to continue the conversation, to elevate the conversation, to make it something that's not take away the stigma from it, because it seems like the conversation is always about you need to be in athletics specifically. You need to be mentally tough. You need to fight through things, and I think the conversation on how do you fight through those things or how do you strengthen your mental health is not a conversation we have enough, because it's more than half the battle is how you can mentally prepare, mentally sustain being in something like this, like the bubble.
Kane Glassby.
Yes, Natalie, what are some of those things that players can do to kind of mentally refresh themselves or remain mentally kind of stable in this bubble environment? I saw that you guys had team dinners and you guys were in the pool and playing Uno. How important are those type of things just to kind of break up some of the monotony a little bit?
I think the biggest thing is knowing what works for you. And I know for a lot of our team, it's human interaction and being with other people and not always being so focused on basketball, and having that release to decompress, to take some time to yourself, or with our teammates to have fun, because literally we eat, sleep, and watch film and play basketball. Like it's a cycle over and over, and I think the lack of kind of time to yourself can be hard if you don't take that time to yourself. So I know that every night when I go home, I like to watch some of the games that are on TV, but after a certain point, it's off for me. It's FaceTime with my family. It's reading a book. It's getting in the cold tub. Even if I was at home, it would be a hot bath, but the way this schedule is set up is a cold tub. But regardless, it's time to myself to relax, to think about something other than basketball, other than competing at the highest level. Obsession is good to a certain point. If it's something that takes over your entire life, where you can only operate on the court, it's toxic. So I think for me, it's taking that time to myself to connect with my people that unfortunately can't be here, because they mean a lot to me. So I think it's important to know what works for you and to take the time to do that.
Reggie, you have another one?
I do. We've asked we asked coach and a couple players tonight. I wanted to get your take on it. Every team would love to have those games where it's kind of a runaway win, a big win, blowout win. But how important are games like tonight, where you're able to hold on to a lead when it's getting tough down the stretch? And a team like New York, who doesn't have the best record, but is a really tough team that's good in a lot of areas, kind of pushes and pressures you. You're able to hold on to that win down the stretch.
New York, they're fighters. They're fighters, and they're going to fight to the end. I think even when we came into halftime and coming into going in the fourth, we said they're going to keep coming at us. So those are super important games for us, especially as a young team. To be able to close out a game is important. To be able to play under pressure, to be able to play in tight situations, and to know that we can execute. So I find those games are 10 times more important than blowout games, because people just get loose and try to get their own in blowout games. So for us, those are critical moments, because when you get into the end of the season and playoffs, you're not having blowout games. So it's great to have that opportunity now to prepare for when the Fever are in the playoffs.
Akeem, got time for one more?
Yeah, Natalie, I'll go back to the topic of mental health. What resources do the WNBA have to kind of help players that might be struggling with mental health? And do you feel like there's something that the league can even do more to kind of, again, eliminate the stigma that surrounds mental health and maybe make it, more kind of commonplace to be able to ask for help when necessary?
I think as our league, they provide, I believe we have 2 mental health professionals that are available to any player that needs them and chooses to reach out to them. Personally, I have my own back in Indianapolis, so I just stay connected with her. But I think the continued conversation, continuing to have resources available, and to push those resources, not push onto players, but to push the conversation that it's available, that it's something that athletes should take advantage of. And I know we're in a unique situation being in the bubble, but I know Indiana does a great job when we are in market having a professional available to our team in Indiana. But it's great that the league does have those 2 professionals available to anyone in the league that needs them. But it's providing also opportunity for players to do things. I know there's now excursions that are available to go to the beach, fishing, and sunset boat ride or something like that. So those are important too, to be able to have outlets for athletes to, like I said, take their mind off basketball. Unfortunately, I don't know how much our schedule allows for it, but I think they're providing opportunities for players to have those releases.